In quiet neighborhoods, power goes wrong.
The courtroom was silent, the kind of silence that makes your heartbeat feel too loud. My disabled daughter sat beside me in her wheelchair, her small hands folded nervously in her lap, her eyes fixed on the judge's bench. She was scared, but she was trying to be brave. I could feel it in the way her fingers trembled. Then it happened. A sharp sound echoed through the courtroom. A slap. Gasps filled the room as an HOA Karen dressed in power, entitlement, and pure arrogance had just struck my disabled daughter across the face, inside a courtroom. And the worst part? She thought she was untouchable. She had no idea my daughter's mother was about to walk through those doors. A woman trained to dismantle lies, expose corruption, and destroy false authority. A CIA officer. We never wanted to be there. This all started because the HOA believed they could control everything, including my daughter's existence. They claimed her wheelchair was a violation. Her medical ramp was an unauthorized structure. Even her service dog was labeled a nuisance. Every letter they sent was colder than the last. Fines turned into threats. Threats turned into legal notices. And finally, they dragged us into court. My daughter didn't understand why strangers hated her for simply existing. "Daddy, did I do something wrong?" she whispered as we entered the courthouse. I smiled, even though my chest felt heavy. "No, sweetheart. You did everything right." She arrived late deliberately. High heels clicking loudly on marble floors, chin raised, lips tight with superiority. She didn't look at us like people. She looked at us like paperwork. This was HOA Karen, the president of the Homeowners Association. A woman who believed rules mattered more than humanity. She smirked when she saw my daughter. Not sympathy. Not discomfort. Annoyance. As if my child's disability offended her sense of order. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The case began. Karen spoke first, painting my daughter as a liability, a disruption, and an exception that sets a dangerous precedent. I watched the judge's face tighten. Then Karen crossed the line. "She shouldn't even be here," Karen said loudly. "This courtroom isn't equipped for people like her." My daughter flinched. I stood up immediately. "That's enough." The judge warned her to watch her language. Karen rolled her eyes. That's when my daughter tried to speak. Her voice was soft. But the room leaned in. "I don't want to cause trouble," my daughter said. "I just want to go home." Karen laughed. Actually laughed. And then, in a moment that still replays in my nightmares, Karen stepped forward. Too fast. Too close. The judge shouted, "Ma'am." But it was too late. The sound cracked through the room. My daughter's head turned slightly from the impact. Not hard enough to injure her physically, but enough to shatter every ounce of safety the courtroom was supposed to represent. My body moved before my brain could catch up. Court officers rushed forward. People screamed. Karen stood there, stunned, not at what she did, but at the fact that people reacted. "How dare you touch her?" I shouted. Karen raised her hands. "She provoked me." The judge slammed the gavel. "Order." But something had already shifted. That's when the courtroom doors opened. Slowly. Every head turned. A woman in a tailored dark suit stepped inside. Calm. Focused. Controlled. She didn't rush. She didn't shout. She looked directly at my daughter first. Then at me. Then, at Karen. And Karen's confidence evaporated. Because my wife had that look. The one that says I already know everything, and you're already finished. My wife walked forward. She knelt beside our daughter. Checked her face gently. "You're okay," she whispered. Then she stood. Turned to the judge. Your Honor, she said evenly. I apologize for being late. I was detained at a federal facility. The judge frowned. And you are? She reached into her bag. Displayed her credentials. The room went completely still. Central Intelligence Agency. Karen's face went pale. The judge straightened. Court officers stiffened. Karen took a step back, too late. My wife didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She simply said, I witnessed an assault on a disabled minor inside a federal courthouse. She looked at Karen. And I don't tolerate bullies. The courtroom had changed. Just minutes ago, Karen stood like she owned the place. Now she stood frozen, her confidence cracking under the weight of a single word. CIA. The judge adjusted his glasses, leaning forward. Ma'am, he said carefully, are you stating you're a federal intelligence officer? My wife nodded once. Yes, Your Honor. No drama. No arrogance. Just facts. Karen swallowed hard. That's irrelevant. Karen suddenly blurted out, her voice sharp and desperate. This is an HOA matter. This family has violated multiple. Stop, the judge said firmly. Karen hesitated. The judge continued, you are being accused of physically assaulting a disabled minor in my courtroom. HOA authority does not extend to violence. Karen's face flushed red. She exaggerated. Karen snapped, pointing at my daughter. She leaned into me. Gasps filled the room. My daughter shrank back in her wheelchair. That's when my wife stepped forward again. Your Honor, my wife said calmly, may I respond? The judge nodded. My wife turned to Karen not with anger, but with something far worse. Precision. In the last 8 months, she said, this HOA has issued 27 violation notices against my disabled daughter. 27. Karen stiffened. My wife continued, including citations for her wheelchair ramp, her medical transport van, and even her emergency caregiver parking space. She looked at the judge. All documented. All on record. Karen shook her head. That's not. And, my wife added, every single notice was signed by her. She pointed. Silence. My wife handed a folder to the bailiff. Inside were printed emails, timestamps, audio transcripts, and photographs. The judge flipped through them slowly. Each page tightened his expression. Karen's lawyer whispered urgently to her. Karen waved him off. Big mistake. The judge looked up. Miss Karen, he said, do you deny sending these messages? Karen hesitated for half a second too long. They were warnings, she said defensively. Rules apply to everyone. Even disabled children, the judge asked. Karen opened her mouth. Closed it. The judge exhaled sharply. The judge leaned back. Now, he said, let's address what happened moments ago. He looked directly at Karen. You approached a minor. Ignored a judicial warning. And made physical contact. Karen raised her voice. She disrespected me. The judge slammed the gavel. Enough. The sound echoed. Karen flinched. My wife spoke again. Your Honor, I'd also like to note that this courthouse is partially federally funded. The judge's eyes narrowed. That means, my wife continued, assault inside this building may fall under federal jurisdiction. Karen's lawyer stood up immediately. Your Honor, my client wishes to remain silent. Too late. The damage was already done. The judge folded his hands. Ms. Karen, he said slowly, you are no longer just an HOA representative in this courtroom. He paused. You are now a defendant. A murmur rippled through the audience. Karen's knees visibly weakened. My wife knelt again beside our daughter. Took her hand. You didn't do anything wrong, she whispered. My daughter nodded, tears in her eyes. I was scared, she said quietly. My wife looked up at the judge. So was she said. And that matters. The judge struck the gavel. This hearing is adjourned. He looked directly at Karen. But this case is far from finished. Court officers stepped closer to Karen. Her world was collapsing not because of power, but because of accountability. The courtroom reconvened 2 weeks later. This time, the energy was completely different. No smirks. No loud heels. No entitlement. Karen sat at the defense table, shoulders hunched, eyes darting around the room. The woman who once believed HOA rules made her untouchable now looked like someone realizing, far too late, that actions have consequences. My daughter sat beside us again, calmer this time. Stronger. And this time, she knew she wasn't alone. All rise. The judge entered, face unreadable. Once everyone was seated, he didn't waste time. This court has reviewed the incident footage, witness statements, medical evaluations, and the additional evidence submitted, he said firmly. Karen's lawyer shifted in his seat. The judge looked directly at Karen. You assaulted a disabled minor inside a courtroom, he said. That alone is unacceptable. Karen lowered her head. The judge continued. But this case goes further than a single moment of violence. He lifted a document. The HOA you represented engaged in sustained harassment against a disabled child and her family. Repeated violations of disability access laws. Intimidation. Retaliation. The courtroom murmured. Karen's face drained of color. My wife stood. Your Honor, she said respectfully, we're not here for revenge. She placed a hand on our daughter's shoulder. We're here to make sure this never happens to another child. The judge nodded slowly. Understood. Karen suddenly stood. I lost control, she said quietly. I didn't mean. The judge raised a hand. Intent does not erase impact. Karen froze. The judge spoke clearly. Ms. Karen, this court finds you guilty of assault, abuse of authority, and violation of disability protection laws. He paused. You are hereby removed permanently from any HOA leadership role. Karen's breath caught. Additionally, the judge continued, this case is being referred for further review regarding civil penalties. Karen sat down slowly. Defeated. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered. Parents. Advocates. Neighbors. Not for drama, but for awareness. HOA board members resigned within days. New leadership was installed. Policies were rewritten. Accessibility was no longer treated as an inconvenience, but a right. Later that evening, my daughter sat beside me on the couch. Daddy, she asked softly, was I brave? I smiled, holding her hand. You were the bravest person in that courtroom. She smiled back. Some people think power comes from titles. From rules. From loud voices. But real power? It comes from standing up for those who can't always stand for themselves. Karen learned that lesson the hard way. And my daughter? She learned something far more important. That her voice matters. Justice didn't raise its voice that day. It simply showed up.